I think that I've decided that that would look beautiful in this frame. So I'm going to paint this frame and change this artwork into it. Got just picked up at the Goodwill bins. I picked it up because I loved how chunky it was. It was really dirty, didn't have a glass, but I feel like we can use all of that. And for this frame, I am using the new DIY Cottage color. This is, oh my, hold on. Garden Sage. I got up to go get it so I could remember the name, and then it came to me. So this is Garden Sage, and I did have to do 3 coats over this dark wood to get it covered, but I finally got it covered, and then I am going to distress it with my little finger sander. There's lots of edges that I can bring back some of that wood from underneath, and we can highlight all of those imperfections in the wood and just really bring it to life. I also picked up this gorgeous cross stitch at the Goodwill bins. I did not like the frame, but the cross stitch was in excellent shape. So I'm going to get it out of here. I am going to cut it down to size. There's probably a bunch of ways to do this, but I'm just an eyeballer. I just laid it under the frame, kind of marked where I needed to cut, and then I cut all around all 4 sides that, and it ended up being a perfect fit, which is actually quite unusual because I usually mess something up, and I was expecting to mess this up. After I did get it cut, I did leave it on that backer because it was stapled all the way around there. But once I cut it down, it cut the staples off. It was loose, so I just glued it right back onto that cardboard backer, and it fit perfectly in the frame. And I feel like this was a major improvement, and I love how this one turned out, and I know that this one's going to sell right away. This suitcase for so long, and I am aching to make it pretty. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the biggest item. We're going to start with this suitcase. To begin with, I know I want to decoupage on this, and I really wanted to do this sheep decoupage paper, but the orientation of that one was wrong, and on this side it wasn't quite large enough. So I decided on a different one, and I picked this script decoupage paper, and I think it's going to be absolutely perfect, and y'all have got to stay till the end to see the reveal of this one because it came out amazing. To begin with, I am going to give everything a good coat of white paint. I'm using a new white to me, and this is Lamp White by Fusion. Fusion paint has a built-in top coat, and I'm only going to do 1 coat on the front and the back, and this has been dry, so we're going to go ahead and decoupage this down. This is the Script Roy Cycle decoupage paper. It's an older one, but I love using it for backgrounds. And what I'm doing here is I just lined up the top, and now I'm using my fingernail to score where I want to cut because there's a nice little lip there. And a pro tip here, when you are cutting your score lines, cut in the inside, especially if you're going to wet your decoupage paper like I do, because it's going to stretch. And if you cut on the outside, your paper is going to be way too big, and if you cut in the inside, you're cutting a little bit off because your paper is going to stretch. Once I get it all cut out, I'm going to lay it where I want it. I'm going to move a strip back, and I'm going to use the same Fusion decoupage and transfer gel, but this time I'm only going to use a little starter strip. So I'm going to get a good healthy coat on, then I will mist my paper, keeping it lined up, and I will lay it right where I want it, flatten it out with my hand, and then use my brush to go ahead and flatten out any wrinkles and put another coat of the transfer gel on it, and then I will just slowly work my way down until I get the rest of it down. This method for me practically eliminates any wrinkles. I do never have any wrinkles, especially on a flat surface like this. Back to our last project, and for this I'm going to use Collage de Fleurs, and these are leftovers that I had from a booklet. I'm going to try to decide how I want to arrange them here, and as you can see, you can use pieces and parts and put your transfers over one another. But before I put these down, I'm just going to line them up to kind of get an idea of how I want to do them. But I also need to finish up this suitcase. And I picked, or Mom actually picked, Highlander. So I am going to paint that trim all the way around the suitcase with Highlander. I just did it very carefully, but if I did get any paint where I didn't think I could cover it up with a transfer, because that decoupage paper is really good and sealed and dry, I can take a baby wipe and wipe it off while it's still wet. So I'm going to speed this up, and I'm going to get the trim painted all the way around, front, back, everything on this. I'm also painting the handle with the red. And then it is time to put the transfers on. And for this first transfer, I'm going to do it in real time because it's so easy to put these larger transfers when your project has been sealed and is completely dry. So I wanted you to see exactly how long it took me to put this large flower on here. First of all, I've laid it where I want it, and I'm giving it a good rub all over, and then I will start in one corner and I will rub and lift as I go, and this come off like a dream. I just wanted y'all to see how easy it is when your background is dry and sealed. I also wanted to mention a little bit about the inside of this suitcase. Once I get this outside done, and I'm going to take the reveal pictures and show y'all this beautiful transformation, I'm not done, but I won't be able to show y'all because I'm going to wait a couple of days. And the worst thing you can do is put this suitcase out for sale when you think it's done and someone want to look inside to buy it and realize that you have painted it shut. Now, you can get them open. You'll have to pry it open. I've done it many, many times. Anytime you paint something like this, you're probably painting it shut because I painted the hinges, I painted everything. So I'm going to let this paint cure for a couple of days, and then I'm going to pry it back open. Now, I do know that the inside of this one is clean, but you also want to make sure your inside is clean and looks nice. This one is a red fabric inside, so it's perfect, but I will need to paint that inside lip also because it's that dingy looking white. So just know and do that before you sell your items. And y'all, I am astonished at how beautiful this came out. It was absolutely perfect. I did the back as well, but the decoupage paper would not go all the way to the top. So I lined up the transfers to do that, to cover that part. And I think the back actually, I like the back even more. Look how beautiful it is. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this project and all of the projects in today's video. Please make sure you're subscribed and come back for more thrift store makeovers. I upload videos every Wednesday night at 6. I also have a web. Hey crafty friends, welcome back to Susie on the Farm. In today's video, I am going to be doing some thrift store makeovers using the new spring IOD release. So hopefully you guys can get lots of inspiration. I won't be using all the products, but I have many, many different projects for y'all today. To begin with, I'm going to be using this clay pot. I racked up on these. I got these for like 25 cents a piece. So I got all they had left for like 20. There was like 20 of them. So I'm going to begin by using the wild berries mold. I love the strawberries that are coming back. And this one is so cute with all the little wild berries. I'm using IOD air dry clay, and I dusted it with cornstarch first. And this is a little tedious process, but I did get it made. I had to speed it up so you guys didn't watch all of that. I just pushed the air dry clay into the mold, and then it released very easily by rolling it out. I did lose a couple little strawberries there, but that is no problem. I can reattach them. So while the clay is wet, I am going to use Tight Bond Quick and Thick Glue, and I'm going to go ahead and put it onto my clay pot, adding in the pieces that I lost there with some glue. And then while the clay is still wet, I am going to go ahead and paint it. That just slows down the drying process just a little bit, enough to cut down on the cracking. I did forget to hit record, but I used iron clay, which is one of the weathered wood. Looks so good. So I got those painted with 2 coats, and while they're drying, I am coming back to my clay pot. It has been overnight. The clay is completely dry, and as you can see, there was just a little bit of cracking there in the center. So I need to do a second coat of paint to make sure I cover everything really good. And I did the rest of the pot, and look at all that completely dry on our clay pot. I'm going to finish it off just by simply dry brushing over all the details and over all of that texture. I'm using a chip brush, the tiniest bit of paint. I've wiped off most of it, and I'm just going over the top to make sure that that paint highlights all those details in the mold. And then I'm just going all around the pot to highlight all of that texture. I never dip my paint back in the brush. There's plenty on there to hit those high spots. And that's it. This one is done. I used all fusion paint on this, so nothing needs to be sealed. And this is gorgeous. And I have so many of these left. I don't know how many I should do of these. They're not selling as they are, so I'm going to have to upcycle them. But I love how this one turned out. What do you guys think? Back to our more projects to go, and I'm really excited about this one. I picked up these 2 frames, I guess at the Goodwill, but I didn't pay very much for them. They're very well made. They are plastic, but I really like that gold color. To complete these, I am simply going to cut a piece of cardstock. This is just some scrapbook paper that I had. I like the black, and I especially loved the look of the window pane with the leaves. And I'm also going to go back into the Wild Bloom transfer book and pick out some really big bouquets of flowers to put inside of these, and I found 2 absolutely perfect ones that fit perfectly in these frames. So I just cut them out, and now I'm going to transfer them directly onto the cardstock, which is very easy. This is a flat surface. These transfers went on very easy onto this paper. And then these will not need to be sealed because they're going to be behind glass. I cleaned the glass, I put them back together, but first I did want to update the frames just a little bit. They had like this faux dust on the details, and to remove that fake dust, I am going to use some of the aging wax just to go over it to make it look darker in those areas instead of like there's dust on them. It really doesn't change the color of the gold because it's a shiny gold, so when I wipe back, it wipes most of that back, but it does stay into those details, makes them pop more, and gets rid of that dust look that I don't like. Did these not come out absolutely stunning? It's hard for me to get a good picture of them this time of day because of the glare, but they are so beautiful, and I know they're going to sell right away. Drawers to put them in. For project number 2, y'all know I'm working through my frame stash, and this one was thrifted by my mom, and it had I hate to say it, but this artwork was just ugly. So I'm just going to remove it. It's on a canvas, and I also didn't like the way that it was set way back in the frame.
almost more like a shadow box. So I cut a piece to fit, and I also forgot to press record, but I'm using the same paint. I did 2 coats of French eggshell on that, and I cut this little piece of Luan. Now I'm going to use casement to paint this entire thing. I did have to do 2 coats to get full coverage over this press board, and then once it dried, I have picked another transfer from the beautiful Brocante transfer booklet. I have done many projects with this rooster and hen and sold every single one of them. You get so many great images. I could go on and on and on about this book and all the great parts of it. I only did 3 projects in this video, but I could use this one paint color and this transfer book to complete probably 25 projects. I don't remember how many there are, but you get so much out of one of these books. So I did the same thing, rub and lift until I got the transfer on, and then to complete this frame, I'm just going to dry brush a little bit of that white casement over these high areas. I wiped off most of the paint, and I never even got any more paint on it. I just lightly dry brushed over the top of it, and now this frame has been completely transformed, and it is so beautiful, and it's really, really big and substantial, and I know that I'm going to get a good hefty amount for this artwork. I had this little menu board for a while, and I just don't think we're ever going to use it as a menu board, so I thought that I would transform it because I am redecorating my dining room, and I'm using lots of blues, and I'm just so excited for spring florals. So I'm just going to paint the center of this with the French eggshell. I do like the wood tone on this board, so I'm going to leave that as is. I'm just going to paint the center, and then I have cut the bird transfer down. I had to cut it in half. It would not fit all of the birds, but that's okay. Like I said, you can cut your transfers apart and just use what you need. So I got 5 of these cute little birds, and I'm gonna put them on this board the same way I've done the other 2 projects today. Y'all, I know that these are simple projects, and people say all you're doing is painting and putting a transfer on. That may be the case, but I am transforming these objects to where they are usable and people are proud to have them in their home. They are one of a kind. That is absolutely what I love. Yes, people could use this transfer and this paint on so many different objects, but you'll never find another one exactly the same. So I also put a little bee, or a couple of little bees on this one, and there was a few little scratches around the edges of this board, so I just used a little bit of my antiquing, or this is aging wax. This is the Fusion aging wax to go over all those lighter areas. I let it sit for just a minute, and then I wiped it back, and I love how this little board turned out. I know these projects were simple today. I also picked up the crud for Christmas. I got it on Christmas Day, and I've been struggling to get well since then. I am better now, but I just, between taking holiday down at home and in the store, flipping the store, I didn't have time to do a lot of projects. I could go on and on with this book and this paint. Like this one I had painted, I think with some milk paint years ago, and it's yellowing. I had it hung up in my bathroom for a long time. But it's yellowing. So I've sanded off all the chippiness, and now I'm going to give it 2 coats of Apothecary and distress it back to that white. So I got this painted with 2 coats of Apothecary, and it's I don't know if you can see all the little textures from where it was milk painted. So it's not smooth and it's not perfect, but I want to go ahead and go with that. So I'm actually going to use sandpaper. You can distress DIY paint with a wet rag, But I want to try to bring off some more of that white too. I think there's a dark wood underneath there if I can remember correctly. So I'm just going to use some sandpaper, and as you can see, it's actually going to bring out some of the white and some of the brown. So we've got layers, and I really like that. One thing you avoid when you wet distress is all of this chalk dust, but that's okay. I'm used to a mess. I'm just going to use some clear wax to seal this up. Doesn't have a back or a glass in it, but I could actually make a back for it. It would be super simple just to cut something. Instead though, I have a bunch of these clips. They're actually thumbtacks, but the thumbtacks are notorious for coming off the back. So I'm just gonna glue that on there, and then I'm gonna hang one of Connie's gorgeous spring pictures in there with this, and that makes it a great and an easy way to change out your artwork. If you have kids making artwork at school, it'd be a great way to hang this and display their artwork. But first, this is a little too shiny for me, so I'm going to use some gold ribbon buff just to antique it up. This is antique gold, just to make it a little, see, make it a little older looking instead of so shiny and new. Video will be more than just frames, but I do have one more that I want to paint and fix up. I'm using gypsy green on this one, which is a color I have never used before. It's a DIY paint. This one's probably gonna get a white wax after a couple of coats. And then I have a tentative plan for what's going inside it. Okay, this is dry, and as you can see, there's a few spots that still have some of the underneath, and that's okay. We are gonna use white wax to highlight all of these details and tone down this green just a little bit. This is DIY white wax. Very smooth, and I like to take some out so I don't contaminate my white wax. This will also seal this DIY paint, which is a clay-based paint and does need a sealer to be permanent, and it's going to stay down in all those cracks. But I'll wipe back the excess. I definitely wanted to use the lovely Charlotte, but as you can see, she's not quite going to fit. So I think we're going to use the teacup instead. But so it's not just a plain teacup. Come out here. I'm gonna use ephemeral type behind it, maybe. Yeah, I think that will work. So, oh, I already had a Charlotte stamp. This is my watercolor book. I use it a lot. First thing I'm gonna do is cut out a piece the size of this frame. If you are stamping and you're going to put something in front of something, let's see, let's do it this direction. You'll want to put what you want to be on front first. I love that teacup. I think that's enough, actually. I was gonna put the ephemeral type behind it. Well, let's go ahead and do it so I can show y'all how to do that, but I'm not sure. All right, we need a mask for the little teacup. Okay. I'm just gonna leave this on its backing instead of taking all the pieces off. And everywhere that that mask is, the ink will not go on your project. Okay, I kind of like that too. That'll work. Oh man, this teacup gets me every time. I absolutely love it. I want to try doing watercolor on the stamp and then stamping back over it. I have plenty of the Charlotte stamp available if you didn't get one. Project, I have a couple of books. I like to pick up old books at the bins because that's kind of the last stop for them. After that, they're going to the dump. These two have seen better days. I had to even sand off some on that, and I wanted to use the vintage brooches molds on these. I'm going to do these the same as kind of like a matching set. So first I'm going to dust them, the molds that I'm using, with some cornstarch. Then I kind of work the IOD clay in my hands, push it into the mold, use my thumb to use that micro rim to get all the excess off. So I made up both the molds, and now I'm going to paint the books in Fusion French Eggshell. This is a beautiful spring color, and I think I might be out of the little ones, but I think I do have some large ones. And also I'm going to use the Lost Garden transfer. This is one of the new IOD transfers from the release that just happened a few weeks ago. And this one can be like a continuous picture kind of thing, or it's very easy to cut apart and match up as well. So I decided to wrap around the book, and it was easier to cut them into pieces for the front and the spine and the back. And I even had to, like, the one I didn't have enough cut off to wrap all the way around the book, so I just cut a few pieces off and put them in the opposite direction to fill up the whole back of that book. Once I got the transfers on, my molds have been sitting long enough to be painted. They're still not dry, but they have a little bit form to them. So I wasn't too worried about painting them. I'm just using a soft bristle brush and being very careful around those edges so not to damage it. I wanted to go ahead and get them painted while it was drying because I didn't want any cracking. to happen, and that slows down the drying process just enough to where I usually don't get any cracking. Some cracking is okay if you're doing a large mold, but since this one's going to kind of be the focal point on the front of these books, I didn't want there to be any cracking. So I got both of the molds painted. All the books are completely done, and now I'm going to let the molds dry overnight. I'm going to go ahead and glue them on with some Titebond glue, and I'm going to let them sit overnight and dry. And then once the next morning, these are all dry and ready to go. I don't need to seal anything, but I definitely want to bring out more of those details and those beautiful molds. So I'm using some white wax, and at first I was just going to go around the molds, but then I decided that it looks so good on that French eggshell too. Let's just go ahead and put white wax over the entire project, and I'm so glad I did because it looks amazing. These books turned out so beautiful, and they have already sold. For project number 2, I've had this little basket in my stash for a while. I knew it was going to need a makeover, but I really love the shape of it and the color of it. So this is not going to be a hard makeover. To begin with, I just pulled off that raffia and the hot glue, and now I'm going to use the mold, Sparrow's Nest mold, and I'm speeding this way up because you guys just saw me make a mold, but I'm doing the same process, dusting with cornstarch, cleaning off the back, and then rolling it out. And now look at all this detail in this mold. I just can't even hardly believe. I mean, look at that. So beautiful. While the mold was drying, or I set the mold aside to let it dry, and now I'm using Fancy Farm Girl to cover those apples. Like I said, I love the color of this basket, so I don't want to paint the whole thing. So I'm just using a small brush and just going in and painting the parts that have the apple. And then I'm going to do that top rim as well. This is a DIY clay-based paint, so it will need to be sealed once I'm done. And these are available on my website, as well as all the IOD and Fusion and just about any product you might need to make over your own thrift store finds. I'll be sure and leave a link for that below in the description box. I finished painting the basket, and I sat the mold on top of the basket to dry overnight. I've kind of pushed it all in. So this mold dried in the shape of the basket, so I know I won't have any problem getting it to glue onto here. But first, I do want to paint this mold in Fusion, and this is the color Chateau. If you've been on my channel a while, you know that this is one of my favorite off-white colors. This can is just about empty. Matter of fact, I'm going to use it up in this video. So I'm just giving it a couple coats, being sure to get down into all those details of this mold. And then once it is dried, if y'all guessed I was going to put some aging wax over it, you guessed right, as per the usual. I just love the look of the aging wax in all the details of these molds. It looks pretty rough when you first put it on, but I promise when you wipe it back, it is so beautiful. I am being careful with this because there's some dainty details there on the side, and I am using a baby wipe to really remove as much of that on the top part of the mold as I can. Then I will go ahead and glue it down with some Titebond glue. I just squirt a big pile in the middle and then use a brush to make sure that it is all over the back, and then all those places that make contact with the basket while it was drying there overnight are glued down. And then I need to seal the paint in with some wax. I'm using Fusion clear wax for this, and I'm sorry I couldn't wait for the wax to completely dry to take these after photos, so that's why it looks a little off in the color variation, but once it dries it'll look great. And this mold is incredible, y'all. For this project, I'm finally going to get to use the new transfer. I'm calling it Wild Bloom. The name is in French, so that's my translation of it. I don't get to use a lot for this project, but I did cut out a couple of the slim florals and a couple of the butterflies because I purchased these small cabinet doors at a Habitat Restore, and they were only $1 each, and I loved the wood tone on them, but I am going to paint them, and for that I am using Fusion in the color Champness. I had a can of this open for a while and it's getting pretty thick, so I need to work with it, maybe add some water. So I did 2 coats on each of these, and then I'm going to put these transfers down in that center little framed part. And when you're using an IOD transfer, all you need to do is peel that white backing off, use the tool that comes with all the transfer packs, and rub until your transfer releases, and then you will need to burnish it in, either using your fingertip or the plastic backing. So I put the floral in the center, and then I put the little butterflies up at the top. And then I felt like the bottom part also needed some detail, so that's what we're going to do next. And for that, I am going to use the Apothecary label stamp, and I actually Googled the name of these flowers, Google image the names of these flowers, and it's really great. They both had right about the same amount of letters, and they both started with the letter F, so they're going to fit perfectly onto that bottom part. But first I'm going to distress these. Like I said, I did love that wood tone underneath there, and I want it to pop through, so I'm going to pretty heavily distress the edges using some 220 grit sandpaper. And I'm also going to use a bow from the new Countryside Memoirs stamp set. I have used this one quite a bit already, but not in video, and I just love all of the elements that come with it. Perfect for junk journaling, which I've been doing a lot of. So I just stamped the name of the flower and that little bow underneath it, and I did the same thing for both of these doors. I just think they both turned out so sweet. To finish them off, I did put a sawtooth hanger onto the back of them so that they can be hung up on the wall. Of these items here, I do know I'm going to decoupage on them. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I believe this is vintage linen by DIY. I'm giving all of these at least 1, possibly 2 coats of the vintage linen, and we're going to come back and decoupage these with some of the new Connie Lines and Designs rice papers. Some of them are not new. I just have not been able to use them, or have only used them a little bit, so I want to use them more. For this first one, I have the Busy Bees, and I have used this one other time, but I love the colors on them, and it's a perfect time of the year to use the yellow and the bees. So for these rice papers, they're pretty thick. There's really no need to do a starter strip. These wood blanks are 8x8, so they're not huge, and it's really easy to put rice paper down without getting wrinkles. So I am using the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel and just doing a good healthy coat. I'm trying to get all or as much of the bees on there as I can and get it lined up, and then I just flatten it out with my hands, and then I will go over the top of it with another coat. I'm really being sure to press down around the edges because you don't want any lifting up on that. Then I'll just go over and put another coat on the top. For this second one, this is called Moment of Happiness, and this is the one with the music. And y'all, these are all available on my website, susieonthefarm.com. But this one has the sweetest little bluebird, and I'm doing the same exact thing with this one. I just line up the image how I want it. And for this one, I really wanted to use this cross. I wish that I could have got more of the flowers on it, but this was the best that I could do for this one. So I'm definitely going to be using this one again, probably on something bigger, because I love all those wildflowers at the bottom too. So I really want to be able to use them. But in the meantime, same process, put down a good healthy coat of the Decoupage and Transfer Gel, press it down, and then go over the top one more time with another coat of the gel. I'm putting all these aside to let them dry. For this little silver tray, this is one of the multiples that has the daisy on it. I cannot think of the name of it right now, but I won't be able to sand the edges off of this one. So what I'm doing here is just scoring it with my fingernail around that center part of the tray and then just cutting it. You could also do the tear method here where you just wet the paper, and I think I'll do that on the next one. But for this one, I'm just cutting it out as straight as I can, and then I'm going to decoupage it down just like I've done all of the others. I have a couple more boards I want to do, so I'm just trying to decide what's going to fit on this one best. I wanted to use the bird pretty bad, but I didn't want to cut his tail off, so I'm going to save that, and instead I'm going to use this Geranium Love with the music in the background. I think it's just a perfect little accent, and it's going to go with a lot of spring decor. So I'm just lining this up, same way, wetting the paper, laying it down, flattening it out, and doing another coat of the gel over the top. This is quite a repetitive process, I know, but I had a lot of these. I wanted to do some bulk on these, and sometimes the more you see it, the more it clicks. So, and that's why I also have this sped up pretty good. I did end up pulling this other one out, and the bunny fits perfectly on it. This one's called Harry the Hare, I believe, on the website, but I just love him. He is so stinking cute. I do have one more, and for this one, it's kind of long and narrow, and I want to use, this one's called Lilac You More. It's got these vibrant purple lilacs in it, which are absolutely beautiful, and this is the multiple size page, so you come with a couple of different sizes. For this one, since it's not exactly a perfect fit and doesn't cover the whole thing, I am going to do kind of an organic tear on it, and the rice paper tears pretty easily. It's very easy to control because it's quite thick. If you just wet it and tear on your line, if you keep your hand placed in the area that you want to keep, it's hard to tear there. I placed this one more down towards the bottom because I am going to do another little detail up towards the top. So now that I have all of these decoupage, I was thinking, so now I need to make something to go with all these. So I raided my hoard again, and I found this little jar, and I'm using Velvet Plum. This is one of the newer fusion colors, and this is my first time using it. Purple's not really something that I usually gravitate for, but to go with these lilacs, it was absolutely perfect. And fusion it paints like a dream. Even on this glass, it took 2 coats, and it looks absolutely perfect over this glass. And it's going to go so well with this little cutting board. For the little daisy platter there, Don't laugh, but I actually had like a Campbell's soup can sitting around because in my book club we do little crafts and we're saving these for our next craft. So I had this one. I had already peeled the label off of it. I am using DIY paint in the color Eden. This is from the last DIY paint color release, and I thought it was a perfect match for the stem on this little daisy, and I gave it 2 coats. And all of these I'm just putting them aside and letting them dry. I'm going to do the reveals after I get all these done and before we move on to some bigger projects. For the little hobnail glass, I bought this specifically to paint yellow. I love painting this hobnail yellow. I started out with the new Cottage color Honey because I'm doing this to go with the bees, but I decided to go with Queen Bee just because it's a little bit darker and it's the color that Connie actually painted and used. I think she might have used some liquid sunshine as well, but on the bees. So I did 2 coats of DIY paint in the color Queen Bee over this hobnail glass vase. All of my papers are dry now, so now this is a very easy step. I'm just going to come in with my little finger sander and sand off all the edges, and I do save all those scraps and I use them for paper crafting usually, but I have a big box full of cutoffs and scraps that I save because you just never know and I don't like to waste anything. So I am getting all of these edges sanded off clean. Once I got everything sanded, I did not paint the back of this one because I just quickly painted it white because I pulled it out after I had painted everything. And I want to use an accent color on the sides and the back. And for that, I'm using DIY in the color Farm Fresh. There's little hints of it in the bunny picture as well. So I'm just doing all around the edges, and that paper is sealed on top, so if I do happen to get some on the paper, that's fine. I can wipe it back off later. And I'm going to go ahead and do 2 coats on the back, drying it in between. And I do love to watch DIY paint dry because it dries so much lighter, and I just think it's so cool to watch it dry, especially when I have it sped up like this. I went back to my stash and I found one lone little wooden bowl that I painted to match this with the Farm Fresh. Now that those 2 coats are dry, I'm going to use a baby wipe and come back and distress and bring back some of that wood underneath the bowl. And I'm also going to clean off any paint that I may have got on the front of that board. And to seal these, I'm just going to use some clear wax. And when you put the sealer on, whether it be wax or liquid patina or Big Top or any kind of sealer, your paint is going to go back dark. As it dries, it will lighten back up. So I'm just putting a coat of, this is Fusion clear wax because I had it handy, and then I will use a paper towel to wipe back any of the excess. Before I forget, in case you don't know, I do have all of the products that I use available on my website, susieonthefarm.com. You can find decoupage papers, DIY paint, Fusion mineral paint, IOD, all of the products that you can use to make all your thrift store makeovers lovely. For the hobnail, I'm also going to distress it. That's one thing I do love about the hobnail. I'm taking it pretty easy on that distressing because I do know when I wax it and wipe back, it will also distress more, which it does, and it did it absolutely perfectly in the end. I just love this look. I did not paint the bottom of these. They're clean, nice glass, so I left those like they were. For the little silver platter, I'm distressing it too, but I actually sealed totally in that DIY when I was decoupaging with the transfer gel. So I'm having to get a little bit of help from my finger sander there to get it distressed the way that I want it before I seal it up. And I also will distress the little Campbell's soup can that I painted very lightly again, because I know that when I wax it, it's going to distress even more. I did not paint the back of the tray. The silver was nice. I just cleaned it up and left it like that. Okay, for the little lilacs, I am using the Conservatory Labels mold, and I've dusted one of the little labels that'll fit perfectly on the top of that board with some cornstarch, and now I'm using some IOD air dry clay to cast this little label. Once I get it all flat on the back, I will flip it out and use my finger just to make sure that I have all the sides nice and smooth. Lay it where I want it, and while it's still wet, I'm going to use these alphabet stamps that I have. These were in my junk journal stash, and I got them a long time ago. Not really sure where, probably Amazon, and I'm just making an impression in the wet clay. You could also use the apothecary label stamp to do this step, but mine was at home because my son used it to make a little sign for his teacher, and I forgot to bring it back home. So I'll let that mold dry overnight, and now it's the next morning and it's nice and hard. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it with that velvet plum. It's going to take 2 coats. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to use some white wax to really get down in that lilac and make it really stand out. And I just rub the wax on there, and then I'll take a paper towel or a baby wipe to wipe it back off. And I'm really making sure to get the wax down in the letters. This is nice and hard now. Overnight, it dries hard, almost hard as a rock. I'm then going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick to glue this on. I'm going to let it dry, and I know you guys are ready to see some reveals. So let's go ahead and reveal all of these makeovers that we've just done with their little items that go with them. I love how they turned out. They're so cute. I'm going to have these on the website for purchase right away, and if they don't sell, they will be in a Whatnot show. I think week after next is going to be all spring upcycles. Go anywhere because we have a lot of projects coming up soon. But I wanted to ask y'all, if you do have a favorite, or if something really stands out to you, please go ahead and leave me a comment below. You can pause this right now and do it, or you can wait till the end. Leave me a comment. Let me know which was your favorite. What's your favorite of these rice papers? And also give me a thumbs up on this video. YouTube's been very slow lately, and I'm starting to get a little bit concerned, and I hope that I can get it hyped back up where my videos are being shown out more so I can continue making them for you all. So I would really, really appreciate that. galvanized bucket, and you can find these things anywhere. Dollar Tree. I think I got this one at the thrift store for $1. I kind of liked that chalkboard thing there in the middle, but I'm really over the whole galvanized look. However, I do love painting over tin and distressing it back. So to begin with, I am giving this 2 coats, and I believe this is Fancy Farm Girl. This is a DIY clay-based paint. So I'm doing 2 coats on the bucket and the little wooden handle there. And once those 2 coats are dry, I'm going to come back with a baby wipe, and I'm cleaning up a little bit there where I got some of the green onto that black. And then I'm going to heavily distress, bring back a lot of that tin from underneath, just make it look like it's kind of worn out. And then to finish it off, I'm going to put a transfer. I picked out one with some pretty yellow on it, and it fit perfectly in that little center thing. I had to cut a little bit of the stem off. And to transfer it on, I'm just going to use the tool that comes with all of the IOD transfers. I like to start on one side, lifting as I go, and this one was very easy to transfer on too. That paint was very cured on there, so I just transferred it on, and then I used my fingers and the backing to burnish it all in and make sure it's stuck down really well. And finally, to finish it off, I'm going to do a coat of clear wax. I am using the Fusion wax. I have these Fusion clear waxes that are scented, and this one is lavender, and I love to even just open this can of wax. It smells so good, but it works exactly the same as all of the clear wax. But if you have a piece of furniture that's kind of got a musty smell to it, this wax is really great to even just put on wood. It doesn't even have to be something you painted. So I'm going to clear all this transfer and this DIY paint in, and this project is done. That's one thing that I absolutely love about the IOD transfer books is how quick and easy it is to transform an ordinary item into beautiful, one-of-a-kind home decor. Penciled the word mail on it, and it looked really good, but I want to use a transfer on it. So I went ahead and sanded that off, and I wanted to kind of mimic the gray because I really liked it, and letterpress gray did seem to be a pretty good match. So what I did is I sanded that off, wiped it down really good, and then I messy coated a little bit of that letterpress gray. And then once that was dry, I came back with some crinoline and did a dry brush over it, and it all just kind of blended together and kept that old barnwood look feel to it. So I thought this basket would be pretty neat. The kids are out of school. I really don't want them cooking when I'm not there. So this is a cute little basket. I could put some of their little oatmeal packs, Pop-Tarts, and stuff like that. So I put the word breakfast on it, and I thought that that would hold those really well. Love the red and the gray together on this, and this transfer went on beautifully. So we are finally getting ready for the reveal of all of these projects. I hope that y'all have enjoyed them, and I know you will, but please go ahead and leave me a comment below. Let me know which one was your favorite. Give this video a thumbs up so YouTube knows that you're liking it, so they will share it out to people like us who might like it as well. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. I hope that y'all have enjoyed all of these makeovers today. Don't forget, I do still have some of the Home Sweet Home transfer book if you didn't get any. And I'm so happy. I think I have talked through an entire 16-minute and 26-second video. That's definitely a record for me, and I'm going to try to do this more often because I get so frustrated with the music too. I can't ever get the volume right. Look how good these look together in this little vignette. I am loving all of these transfers, and I still have many more to use, so I think that means I need to take another thrifting adventure to find items just to put these transfers on. I'm making over this plain wood crate. I've had this a long time, so I can't tell you where I got it or how much I paid, but it probably wasn't a lot. To begin with, I'm giving it I only had to do one coat because I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint, which is an all-in-one with a built-in sealer. And this is the color Velvet Plum. I'm not a purple person, but I have fell in love with this color and I use it every chance I get. I'm not painting the inside of this crate. I'm just going to leave it the wood, but I am doing all of the outside and the spindle handle. Once my paint was dry, I picked out another transfer from the Sarah Featon's Botanical Transfer book. I am having to cut this in apart because I did not want to lose that last little flower, and I also had to cut a little bit of the stem off. I will add that flower back on later, and I did miss getting that on film, but I'm going to transfer this the same way. Putting a transfer over the Fusion paint, because it has that built-in sealer, works like a dream, and it came off very easy. I was also going to stamp the word garden on it, but actually laying right beside me, I had a piece that I had cut off of a traditional pots transfer. That is the French word for garden. So I just put that on there, and then, you know, I had to stick a little butterfly in the corner. This one needs sealed up, and I'm going to use that same clear wax. I'm going to use wax on everything today because it's here, and I worked so hard on last week's video, and I took the whole weekend off. So I was limited on time for these, and this transfer book made it so easy on me. Speaking of easy, it doesn't get any easier than this project. I picked up these 3 multicolor vases. Funny, 2 of them for $1.99 and one of them was 99¢. But I love the colors on them, and I initially got them to put some gold foil transfers on. But when I started this video, I couldn't help it. I knew that they would look so beautiful with botanicals. I just pulled out a page. I didn't even look at them, and there were 3 transfers that went perfectly on these jars, just like they are. So I did the same thing, and transferring these transfers onto glass is very easy. However, transferring onto a rounded curved surface can sometimes be a little bit tricky. I like to start on one side, and I just very patiently make my way to the other side, lifting as I go so as not to get any wrinkles or tears or anything. And then you just want to be sure that you burnish your transfers in with your fingertips or the backing. Now, your transfers, it is recommended to seal them. However, I'm not going to seal these. I have done that a few times on projects that I have kept, and they've held up just fine. However, if you wanted to seal them, you could probably take them outside and do a spray sealer. I would not recommend doing a top coat of any kind that you brush on because it would turn this colored glass looking cloudy, and that's why I chose not to seal them. But look how good these look on these jars. I love the way they turned out, and I believe that this is my favorite project for today. Galvanized is everywhere in all the thrift stores, and as soon as I saw these 3 French flower buckets, I immediately knew that I wanted to put the paint inlay florography on them. But first I had to pick out paint colors, and I decided to do 3 different colors. So I painted one in crinoline, I painted one in Farm Fresh. I used that one earlier in this video and I love it. And my favorite DIY color, one of the very first ones I used, Skeleton Key for the other one. I thought they were all year-round colors that could stay out. So I did one coat, let it dry completely, and now I'm coming back with the second coat. And the second coat, while it's wet, is when you want to put your paint inlay on. I like to put a pretty good, thick, even coat, and then I missed my paint inlay, and I missed the entire paint side of the paint inlay, lay it where I want it on my project. I did realize here that I did not paint enough of one side, so I had to add a little bit more paint before I laid the inlay into it because it will not stick to dry paint. It has to be wet paint. And then I just smoothed it all out with my finger, making sure to make good contact all the way around the entire thing. And lastly, I wet it once again, and I used a paper towel to dab off any of the excess and then put it to the side and let it dry. I'm going to speed through these other two, but I'm doing the exact same thing, adding the second coat of paint, misting my paint inlay, laying it in the wet paint, smoothing it out with my fingers, and then wetting it again to activate that paint on the back of it. And then I dab off the excess paint, putting them aside to let all them dry. Now for the fun part, removing these once they are all dry. To remove them, you want to use your Mr. Bottle again and re-wet the entire thing. You do got to be careful when you're misting the DIY paint because especially if you don't want to distress it, I am going to end up distressing these in the ends. I wasn't too worried about it. And then you just let it sit for a minute and you pull back the backing and your image has transferred into your wet paint. We need to let them dry, and I'm just going to let you guys see the reveal and pulling off all of these inlays. Like I said, I let these dry, and to seal them, I did distress them, and I waited overnight to seal them, and I used some clear wax, but you can seal them right away. You just need to use a very light hand with like liquid patina or something like this. But if you want to use wax, you definitely need to let them cure for a while because the rubbing will smear the paint if not. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed today's transformations. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share my video out. And I'll see you guys next week.